have you join us. We'll listen along, watch along at the Pluckers while we enjoyed fried Oreos and monster-size cold beers. We got a John Machota 7-round mock draft to look at here, boys. Football's finest coming up at the top of the hour. And Machota has the Cowboys going up to number 6 overall here in round 1 in that trade with Cleveland for 6 and 39. Brian, you opened the show today saying you didn't think that was going to happen.
I don't think so.
Do you think the Cowboys don't want to or Cleveland doesn't want to?
I think Dallas would like to read and see what happens in front of them, but I think they're more comfortable standing there at 12 and 20 and making a pick. I think they want to pick 2 players there, and whatever players available at that spot, they're okay with it.
Do you think they would disagree with maybe our idea that moving down from 20 to 39 isn't that big of a drop?
I think they want to just pick the player there. I think they honestly have somebody in mind there at 20.
Yeah.
Where we're kind of like a little bit chaotic and thinking like, well, they could go
be aggressive, go get your guy.
Yeah, I think they have somebody in mind they would like to take at 20. I think they're okay with that.
Sonny Styles, a fairly polarizing player, I think for some people, but I think publicly, ever since the combine happened, he has just been skyrocketing up. And, people look at Sonny Styles as maybe a can't-miss linebacker, as a superstar linebacker. I don't know what kind of a floor and a ceiling you guys would anticipate, but Machota links to Dane Brugler in The Athletic, his quick write-up, the freaky height and the weight and the speed and all that, processes quickly, delivers pop at contact as a downhill player, rarely misses tackles. Though he plays with terrific reaction quickness, the next step in his development is to improve his anticipation, especially in coverage, so he can make more plays on the football. I mean, what do you think about what his limitations are and how much he'd help the Cowboys here in 2026?
Yeah, I think the big area that you saw him improve throughout the season was second-level blocks. Like, if a lineman's able to get to the second level on him, how does he disengage? How is he able to avoid the trash? Like, we talked about Jimmy Roller earlier from Michigan, and he does an excellent job of evading blocks. I think Sonny Styles, you saw it kind of click for him and improve throughout the season, which is why I think he's an ascending player that's only going to get better. It's interesting, it's the coverage, because I think the coverage is some of the strengths in his game. Maybe he's worked on more, like the downhill run defense. I think as a blitzer, there's a lot of untapped potential there. He had 6 sacks 2 years ago. Ohio State didn't use him as much in that regard this past year, but I think a lot of it is just really being able to read and diagnose where the run play's going and then being able to avoid the trash and navigate blocks. But I think I'm betting on this guy. I think he's got all the physical traits. He's got the IQ to be able to do it. I think I put him at 8 overall, or maybe 7 overall in my stack in the top 100.
Dane's got him at 4.
Okay, so Sonny Styles is definitely a player I would love to have. I think he clearly is the best linebacker in the draft.
Yeah, but you're talking about a situation potentially too, and just know this going in. There's a lot of things to really like and love about this player. He's played linebacker for 2 years. That's the thing. If you're gonna put him in a situation, and we were talking about Donovan Ezraku last year, and I was sitting there going, the learning curve, not as steep, all these things. Just know that this guy has played linebacker for 2 years. He was a converted safety, the measurables, the testing, everything about it. I think there's some legitimate questions about the football, some of the things that happened to him on the field when it comes to, I think you can move him. I think you can misdirect him. I think his eyes sometimes fail him, but maybe that's because he hasn't played the position for a long time.
Yeah.
Just know when you draft him, there might be some learning curve issues that you're going to have to deal with. And if you're totally comfortable with that, then by all means, go for it. But I will say this isn't one of these guys that's played 4 years at Ohio State at a position, and every year we've seen him grow and grow and grow. We'll know, like Smith, the wide receiver from Ohio State, we saw him his first year, second year, third. We see that growth as a player, and he's played the position. Where Styles is different is the fact that he's only done this for 2 years. The upside, all those things could be huge. Just know that if you get him and he doesn't look instinctive and he doesn't look aware, that might be him trying to learn the position.
If you could take 2 players and combine them, do you think we'd have the perfect linebacker ever if we had Sonny Styles physically with C.J. Allen's history of starting from day one and being like a thoroughbred IQ linebacker guy? If you could just
I
morph
think-
those two guys together, we
I'll
could talk
tell you
about
what,
the perfect linebacker.
if you gave me the awareness of Rodriguez from Texas Tech,
Okay, yeah,
If
there
you
you go.
gave me- if you
Sorry,
gave me-
Wolchuk, I discredited your guy.
Okay, it's
no.
all right.
If you give me the awareness, I mean, if you give me somebody that has played the position and has seen blocking schemes, I think some of the things that he struggled with early in the campaign was because he hadn't seen a lot of it.
For sure.
He hadn't seen.
And it's fair to say that by the final game to the first game, he got better?
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
that's good.
But all of a
Absolutely.
sudden you see down blocks and you're playing the down block, and all of a sudden, oh wait, they're pulling somebody, or they're trapping me, or they're sending, we're giving jet sweep, orbit motions, things like that. These are things he's seeing. And it's going to take. I think it's going to take a little time.
Do you think with the way offenses play now, is it more mentally taxing to play linebacker in this day and age than what it was maybe in the early 2000s? Or like in the 90s,
Well,
or really just
especially
throughout
the way-
time in football, just with all the eye candy and the movement. You
for
see
sure.
linemen,
Misdirection.
usually it was like, when you see a lineman pull to the left, that's where the ball's going.
Yeah.
Now it's like, not 100% of the time. It used to just be like, you have a key, and it's going to take you to the ball. And now it feels like, holy crap, bro. There's 9 different things that can happen on this play. Like, being a linebacker today, just from my vantage point, gosh, it feels like it's way more of they're trying to confuse you.
See, like the Schlesinger, the kid that came out of UCLA last year, and the reason why I think he had success is you watch him at UCLA, and Zach, please chime in. Undersized guy, but played with tremendous instinct and awareness.
Yeah, he did.
Like
Absolutely.
He was like, okay, I'm reading blocks. Boom, knife it. Oh, the ball's going outside. I got to beat it to
Just
the
one
outside.
step ahead.
Yeah, sometimes when you're undersized or you're small, you have to have the superpower of mental capacity of, okay, this is what they're trying to do to me. And maybe it's one of those things where you study and you prep.
Right.
Sean Lee, Leighton Vander Esch, Dat Wynn, Dexter Coakley, the linebackers that have played here that have had success have been really good readers and been really the instincts to make plays because they're a step ahead. This is where I think Styles is just a little bit lacking, is he doesn't have that kind of experience yet, and he will. He'll get it. The more he plays, the better he'll play.
It was the beauty of watching his tape. That's what I loved, is from week 1 against Texas to in the Big Ten championship game against the team that won the Natty in Indiana.
Yeah.
That was his best performance.
Yeah, and I think experience is incredible, and you can't buy it and you can't train for it, but it doesn't always fix the issue. Like the ability to anticipate what the other team is about to do and understanding the spatial awareness of it. Some guys can play basketball their entire lives and never be a point guard, But the kid that at 5 years old was your point guard was born to do it, And in basketball, it's a lot more clear the differences in the skill set. But I think that ability to anticipate and track everybody else on your team and the other team and see how they're opening and closing space at the same time is natural. You can watch the film and give yourself a shot, but it's what happens in that 1/10 of a second. When the pieces on the chessboard shift, how quickly do your eyes tell your feet, I got to go there? And for guys that don't show it in college, it's tricky to believe that they're going to get there.
His lack of experience for the position is just something you got to be aware of.
Yeah.
It could very well be, though. Very well could be in a situation though where I think he's going to get better. Don't get me wrong.
I do wonder.
I just don't know how plug and play he is right now.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. I think that he might look terrible the first 5 weeks of the season. I mean, look terrible of like, oh, he got confused. Oh, he missed a tackle. Oh, he was a step late. And then week 6, all of a sudden the thing starts to click.
All right, we got to run. We got football's finest coming up next, Chief. Where's it going?
What does Will McClay's history tell us about potential Cowboys draft day trades next year?
From the voice of America's team, Brad Sham, joining us here on Sean and RJ, along with Cowboys insider Bobby Bell. Good morning, Bradley. How's the offseason been?
Not too bad. How about you boys?
Doing well, and excited for this on Thursday with 12 and 20. Give us your initial feel. Give us your initial Brad Sham thumbs up list on the prospects that we've been talking so much about.
Yeah, it seems like there's 5 that we know of, 5 or 6, and I'm looking at the defensive side that everybody gets excited about. In my perfect world, I think they'd find out a way to get Caleb Downs because, I've watched him a little, but from everything that you read and people you talk to, it kind of makes me think of a little smaller Darren Woodson. Smaller, but smart, intense leader, and will do everything. Remember how Woody started? I mean, he came in he was a linebacker, and he played in the slot. Nobody like him had ever played in the slot. Well, this is what this guy does, everything, and it's what's between his ears, and it's the leadership. So this guy can run your defense for a long time, and then in my perfect world, having gotten him, they would get Jacob Rodriguez, who I absolutely love, and I wouldn't be afraid to take him at 20, even though most of the draft, the mocks and everything, Sean, say that's too high. I don't believe in too high. Now you can reach. There's an extreme.
Well, he can't.
But if, especially, no, perhaps not. But just listen to the people who are respectable opinions, who really know what they're talking about, and then you watch him. And I have watched him a little more. And I just think that he is. Well, the first time I saw him, I thought, well, this guy is like a little bit bigger than Nat Wynn, who was an outstanding player. And if you say I'll be happy with Rodriguez at somewhere in the second round, but I wouldn't take him at 20, and he goes in the second round and becomes a really outstanding player, then you could have taken him at 20. It's fine. So that's my perfect world. Now, it feels to me like they better get the 6 if they want to get one of these premier players. I saw, I don't know if it was ESPN or whoever it was, had another new mock this morning, and there was no trade, and they came away with Hood and Falk, and those are good players. My sense when I hear that is I'm a little underwhelmed, but I do have to say, the last time I remember saying to you guys, if this happens, they would be settling, it was Tyler Smith. And so that turned out okay. Here's the other thing, and nobody wants to hear this, and I don't even want to hear it very much. You can't rule out an offensive player depending on how the board goes. If C.D. Lamb falls in your lap and everybody else is gone, then take him. If there's an offensive tackle who is going to erase the questions and everybody on the defensive side that you really want is gone, don't hesitate. Take him. So, but, I would love to see him go up. I think if you go to 6, there's a lot of volatility between 3 and that 5 or 6. Well, the Giants are going to clean up whatever they do. But it just feels like at 6 you'll get one of the top guys. I really would not want to give up 20 if I could avoid it, but I wouldn't mind it if I'm getting 39. That's a very popular mock trade. I think I could talk myself into it if I get the right guy at 6, and then I can project somebody that I really can use at 39. I could talk myself into that.
Brad Sham, voice of the Cowboys, previewing the draft here on The Fan. Brad, at 12, who else do you really like or are hearing great things about that you trust when it comes down to Delane, Styles, and any other possibility there after Downs?
I just think that Styles, Delane, maybe Bain. I understand the history. I think those Styles, Delane, Bain, Downs, and Reese. I don't think I'm forgetting any of the top defensive players. I just don't think any of them will make it to 12. One might, but you have to. That's obviously the risk you run. You have to know that when you're sitting there on the board, and if that's why I say you have to just calculate the cost. If you see one of those guys, they've talked. They've Kevin Costnered all their people with phone calls, and they kind of know. They kind of have a pretty good feeling about who's going to take whom before 6, and then they got a sense of after 6. So I don't know, Sean, that any of those guys gets to 12. And that's why I think you have to look at are we talking about, the thing I like about Styles and Downs is they're not just physical specimens. These guys are both, by reputation, super smart and leaders. And I had, I don't want to name the guy because it would embarrass him, but I had a very critical player on their team late in the year, and I took him aside and said, "What do you need?" And he said, we need some more grown-ups. And he was talking about, and he said, Quinnen Williams is a grown-up. Kenny Clark is a grown-up. Even Ezaraku, as young as he is a grown-up. We need more grown-ups. And that sounds to me like what you're getting in Downs and Styles. The thing about Styles, if you just close your eyes and think about dominating linebackers that they've even just had here, I mean, we saw what Sean Lee did when he was healthy. We see what Overshown means when he is healthy. And if you close your eyes, you can't predict health, but if you close your eyes and look at what Styles has been, you can see that. You can see a guy that just kind of takes over the defense and puts fear in the other side. So those five guys, I think, separate themselves. And after that, there will be good players, but they're going to be second-round players because there just aren't that many top first-round players. And if you've got the capital to go get one without it costing too much, I'm too conservative sometimes, I admit it, on some of these things, but without it costing too much, I'd go ahead and do it.
Brad, how much of an impact or an influence, I guess, over their decision-making do you think Christian Parker's going to have? Not just his scheme and them trying to fit to it, but specifically his voice saying, hey, I want this guy, and making himself an authority in that draft room.
Yeah, Bobby, it feels like a lot, and I hope that's the case, because look, I love Rod Marinelli. He's a great human being. He doesn't apologize to anybody for his career, and he's why T.J. Watt's not here. And so they have a history of giving coaches on one side of the ball or the other a lot of authority. And what they have invested kind of emotionally, not just financially, but emotionally in Parker and the way that they've let him put the staff together, I think they looked at and you've said this, you've written it. They've looked at the offensive staff. They looked what Clayton Adams did with a lot of guys who people had never heard of. Some had never coached in the NFL. Look at the staff they put together and what it produced. I think they see that in Parker and the people that he's hired. And so I think the answer to your question is a lot. I think that he could be a tiebreaker. If someone says this guy or this guy, and Parker's on the table saying this guy, I think it'll be him.
Brad Sham, voice of the Cowboys here on Sean and RJ 105.3 The Fan. How have you felt about the rest of the offseason, starting with Aubrey's extension yesterday? You go and you get Jalen Thompson. You go and you get Durant at corner, the Rashawn Gary move. Your assessment of the busty budget offseason along with Aubrey yesterday.
Yeah, well, let me start with Aubrey because I thought they did that really well. And I would have, Sean, I'd have given him $10 million. Right? Again, not my money, but they do have to kind of calculate a little bit forward. But they very wisely said, if anyone thinks they want to pay more than this, we can still match it.
Yeah.
And if not, but you're not going to get draft choices that will compensate you for that guy. He's different. I think they knew they weren't going to get anybody to pay him more than that. So they sat back, two other kickers signed, I think it's two, and reset the top of the market at a price they were still willing to pay. So he wanted to be the top paid kicker. When I say he, it's a lot his agent also. I mean, anybody who knows Aubrey knows he's not sitting over there pounding the table for more money. I want to be the highest paid kicker. Okay, let's just sit back and see what that is. Well, it became what it became, and now, okay, we'll move up a little bit from that and lock you up, and we love you, and here's how much we love you. And he's clearly very happy with it. I thought they did that really well. I can't say I know or trust even, but I hope that when we're done with the Pickens saga, it will be much the same thing. I thought it was really smart to put the non-exclusive tag on him because it gave his guys an opportunity to go shop him around. No one's going to pay that price, but if someone does, okay. So what I really, part of the, and I weave this into your question about the whole bust the budget off season. One of the things I was hoping, and I'm still hoping it because we haven't crossed the Rubicon yet, is that we would get through an off season without contract drama. Because we're all sick of it.
Yeah.
And some of that depends on the player. So if Pickens does it differently than Parsons did it, for instance, if he comes and participates and if he wants to sit out a couple OTAs, I don't care. But if he's in minicamp and he is participating and he's on the field in training camp, then I will say that they handled it well. I think there's a lot of look. The thing about Pickens, and again, Sean, I would give him the money. Here, now this was before Smith and Jigba signed his deal.
Yeah.
But I would have said, well, here, look, here, I'll give you 30. What are you going to get? 28? We'll give you 34. But keep this in mind. He is one of the guys who decided in the first game after Marshawn Nealon died that he had to stay out and break curfew in Las Vegas. Now, that's a red flag. And you live with red flags, but when you're starting to throw huge money, like a 10% of your payroll kind of money at a guy, then you have to examine that behavior. That, to me, is a legitimate reason to take a deep breath and say, hold on, show me another season of good behavior. And well, he's going to miss meetings. He's going to sleep late. That's who he is. A lot of guys are like that, and they're great players, and he's a great player. I want another off season without that kind of thing. I want a good behavior. I want a full season showing me who you are before I give you that kind of money. Might it cost them more? Yeah, it might cost them more, but it's a little bit risky. But that's what I'm hoping for Pickens. The rest of it, I give them high marks, for really trying with Crosby and with the linebackers who wound up going to
Raiders.
Las Vegas. And and it turned out that so we got 2 or 3 guys who have played together in college, and they wanted to go play together. And okay, that's fine. That's a hard one to beat, and it's a fair thing to say. Try isn't good. Do is good. And so you tried to get them, and you didn't get them, then you failed. That's a fair thing to say. On the other hand, you still have to be smart about it. I think what they did in the secondary, all those guys they signed in the secondary, I don't know how good they'll be, but I don't think any of us would dispute that they are light years ahead of where they were last year. They went to Oxnard with 4 of their identifiable top 5 corners physically unavailable until I don't know when. and that was a disaster. And we knew that was going to be a disaster. And so they have addressed that part of it. And would you like 2 more pass rushers? Absolutely. And that's why I wouldn't be afraid to take a chance on Bain, despite his short arms and the accident and all of that. I think he's a difference maker from what I've seen, what my eyes have seen. Now, there can be some other guys who will pop up. And by the way, parenthetically, I really dislike the term edge rusher because what you want is a defensive end. You got to stop the run. You got to hold the edge on the run also. So if all a guy can do is pass rush, there can be a spot for him, and he's James Houston. And then he can play on special teams, but he's not going to play 35 snaps a game and be a guy who week in and week out is going to make a difference at the end of the game. So would you like some more of that? Yep, sure would. And there might be some guys on Friday and Saturday who jump up. Don't forget, Prescott's a 4th-round pick. Witten's a 3rd-round pick. That there's guys who are undrafted free agents. We because it's the nature of the beast, we focus on the 1st round. But clearly they need more at linebacker, and probably at least 1 more, maybe 2 defensive ends for them to get to be where they'd really like to be. Are they better than they were a year ago? Yeah, I think they're better. I think they're better. Are they better enough? The only thing that gives me a little pause is we presume that the offense will be what it was. And a lot can happen. Give me tackles. Give me Pickens in the right frame of mind. Everything's got to go right for the offense to be as good as it was last year. If it is, the defensive improvement, I would say, might, let's see what happens this weekend, might be enough to boost them up a little bit more to where would say, yeah, they could make the playoffs, might win a game. To win 2 or 3 games, I still think there's some work to do.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for the preview. Enjoy the show.
Thanks, boys.
Here with fan hosts hosting the ultimate draft night party starting Thursday night shortly after 7 o'clock. Segments brought to you by the Frankels. If you've been injured in a car or truck wreck, call the Frankels first, 214 or 817-333-3333. There's never an out-of-pocket cost. They only get paid when you win. The Frankels are the go-to car and truck wreck attorneys in Dallas. Okay, we start here with the C-note with Dak at the Children's Cancer Gala Friday night. Talked to football with reporters who were there to get Dak's thoughts and Troy Aikman's thoughts on everything. The headline making quote from Prescott was on Pickens. Quote, he's been active, looks great, leaving all those contract talks to the front office. Not only a reference to how things went wrong with Micah last year, but with what Dak and CD have recommended to their teammates after going through it before is just like, man, let your agent handle this. You don't want to get involved. But, I mean, could we be lucky enough to have this go smoothly with George just focusing on football? Of showing up for training camp? I don't think he's going to show up for OTAs or the offseason. I don't really care about those. I just care about his mindset and his presence at training camp. And I think so far those things are going fairly smoothly, but you just can't take anything for granted considering who that agent is.
Yeah, man, I think it's very much so up in the air, and you're playing a bit of a dangerous game, and maybe inside those walls they will get a little bit more of an assurance about George Pickens showing up to training camp, but I wouldn't be betting on it.
No, I wouldn't be betting on it either. But I think George probably respects Dak and CD's advice quite a bit.
Yeah.
And if they're telling him, dude, if you relax, you're gonna get all the money. Like the agent's gonna take care of you. If you can just focus on football. Once you go into, I'm pissed off at the team because they're not giving me what I'm worth. Mm-hmm. Now you're talking to yourself every day about being disrespected. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of damn days. I just saw from Scott Hansen the other day, there's 150 days until the return of Red Zone.
It's awesome.
Do you want to wake up pissed off at the Jones boys for the next 150 days? Because once you engage and do a deep dive on what you're worth with your stats compared to what the market is saying and what they're giving you, you can think of the millions and millions of dollars that you're not getting, and it's going to be difficult. Jerry Jones at the press conference when they dealt Micah Parsons said everybody will flash when you start talking about their personal finances, right? And there's a look across their face of suddenly their emotions. They're in a fight now. You want to wake up in a fight every day, or do you want to enjoy football and let your agent handle it? Clearly, the best option for your happiness and your pocketbook and staying with the Cowboys is option B. And once you're in that mindset, leave me alone, Mulligetta.
Yeah.
I got practice to get to.
Yeah, call me crazy. I think he's going to show up because I just don't see the real gain for him in not showing up. The rest of the league's basically told you we're not interested. They've had time to negotiate. They haven't wanted to. The Cowboys might be just totally content. They're like, do it again. We want to see it again. We want to see how you are on and off the field, and we want to see the production again before we're willing to give you that deal. So if the rest of the league's still holding the narrative and some of the immaturity and some of the bad egg label that's been thrown upon you, are you going to add to that by now I'm not going to show up and now I'm not going to hold out? I don't know the real benefit in George Pickens' case that there is to hold out now after you've gone the entire offseason and the Cowboys basically said, hey, open for business. If somebody else really wants you, go ahead, make an offer. And nobody did. And then the league saying, yeah, you're not worth more than a second-round pick. you kind of know your market, and it's not as high as you want it. So go out, ball out again on a franchise tag, believe in yourself, bet on yourself like Dak did and got rewarded for it, and we'll circle back and do it again next year. From the Micah standpoint here, it was a different thing, right? Like, Micah had done everything. You knew the Cowboys wanted to pay Micah, and if the Cowboys didn't, there was going to be a lot of suitors that did. Green Bay did. But for George, it
the
doesn't
suitors
sound like
aren't
there
there.
are.
Yeah, it's difficult to get that kind of leverage. I think the only downside would be the risk of injury if I'm George.
That's fair.
But the point you bring up might be more powerful.
Yeah.
Like, you have a chance to flip the narrative.
Yeah, and I mean, how many times do you see guys get banged up when they skip training camp? You know, it's like you try to hold your leverage and then you show up for the season, and all of a sudden you're coming out of the gates a little bit slow. I do think everything you just said, Walchuk, makes a ton of sense.
Yes, sir, it does. Okay, at 877-881-1053, if you'd like to chime in on that, the Franklin Injury Attorney text line is open for you. We go to the Twitter account of Nick Harris, Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Says, call me dumb when I'm wrong. I think the Cowboys' 2 first-rounders are going to come from this group right here. Mansour Delane, Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, Jordan Tyson, Colton Hood, Brandon Cisse, Chris Johnson, T.J. Parker, Keldrick Falk, and Malachi Lawrence. So that's, 9 different names and some different scenarios. The Jordan Tyson one is the only offensive player in there, the Arizona State wide receiver, posting clips of his workout.
They look good.
Man, it looks like his legs just operate differently than everybody else's, don't they?
He's got some Justin Jefferson to his releases. I'm nervous about his injury history because it's been a consistent issue in college. So why is that going to not be an issue in the pros? But if he's healthy, yeah, the dude is absolutely a top 10 type of pick. He's fantastic. I don't think the Cowboys are going to go that direction. I don't think he's going to be there at 12. But I love the Malachi Lawrence being on that. And Daniel Jeremiah throughout today, he's heard some buzz that the Cowboys could be a sneak. I think that's a trade back. I don't think they'd take him at 20. But the only name on there that would scare me is T.J. Parker.
I think they'd take him at 20.
You do?
I do.
Okay.
What are the strengths of Malachi Lawrence? This is the edge from UCF.
Yeah, he's a tall, long, rangy type of guy. Gives you no hitting surface. He throws a lot of different counter moves at you. He's one of those guys that we always talk about, the one-trick pony. He's not one of these guys. He can get small when he has to. He can get up the field. He retraces really well. He never kind of goes past the quarterback and then has to, circle around. He always arrives at the area. He plays the run a lot better than you think he does. For somebody that's up the field, he knows how to get back. I think he's got a good feel for how to read blocks and then take advantage of what guys are trying to do. But he's always throwing some type of counter move. He's always got a plan with the way he rushes.
Really good athlete.
Very good athlete, yeah.
And so what's his weakness? It sounds like he should be in consideration for top 10.
I have an undrafted grade. He's a 7th-round pick.
I give him a 179. All right, thanks, Jim. But yeah, to me, this might be one of these guys through the draft process, and I know Zach has talked about it when we've done stuff, whether it's on the stack over there at Crown Global Media and stuff. He's talked about him. I know on our airways we probably have not talked about him nearly enough because we've talked about Messidor and people like that. I just don't think they're going to draft Messidor. I don't think they're going to draft Messidor. And I think the age is a concern to them. So with that being said, now where's the others? I mean, I think the arm length is a problem for our Texas A&M.
Because his arms are shorter than Baines for Cassius Howell.
Cassius Howell. I think that we were talking about Howell. We were talking about Messidor. We're talking about, I think, physically and age and all that. Now you're starting to slot our guy here into that 20 hole.
I'd be so pumped. And Coach Brim, who's on the staff, coached him at UCF. So he's got a sponsor in the building. Yeah. I'd love Malachi. 6'4", 247. You want an edge, that's your guy right there. I'd love that.
But what is he that he doesn't do? What is the thing where he could bust?
I guess you can probably find.
He's not the heaviest guy.
At 247, he's light.
Yeah.
And he did play at UCF. I mean, he was in the Big 12. He was all Big 12 first team. But you could knock him.
He's a taller version of what Bailey is. Bailey's like a 250-pound guy.
Yeah.
So the thing that could get him in trouble, man, it's hard to say because there's so many things he does well as a pass rusher, but the run defense stuff is pretty solid. His run defense might be better than Bailey. when it comes to the way he plays.
Yeah, I mean, he can improve the
This could be
consistency,
one of
but
these
I
guys.
agree.
This could be one of these guys that should probably be selected somewhere between 12 and 18. And now he's, now people, maybe the media scouts have not gone on him like they should have, whereas the team scouts are kind of like, nah, man, you guys are missing out on this cat. His film is fun to watch.
6'4", 253 with a 4.5 40.
Yeah.
Wow, it's quite an endorsement and a scouting report that you've given us on him. That would be exciting if the Cowboys can add him. Okay, Mel Kiper's favorite linebacker, perfect fit for the Dallas Cowboys. This is Michigan's Jimmy Rolder.
Yeah.
Who Kiper dubbed his favorite linebacker prospect. Quote, he has versatility and the speed to close on the QB as a blitzer, but I have him graded as an off-ball linebacker. 6'3", 238. Rolder has the IQ, the diagnose skills, and the burst to drop in coverage, and he wraps up as a tackler. Kiper goes on to note that Rolder will be a steal in the early parts of day 3 where the Cowboys are picking 4th there at 112. You like Rolder?
I got to give Jonah Tolles a lot of credit for this guy. We had him on Love of the Star. I hadn't watched him yet, and he's like, man, Jimmy Rolder, I got a 3rd-round grade on him. He said, watch him against Michigan State. It's one of the best films that you'll see, and he was right. I mean, he led Michigan with 73 tackles. Now, he's a one-year starter, Gavin, so I know you brought that up with Arvell Reese.
He was a lot of special teams in Michigan.
He had to wait his turn to play. But Brian, I mean, he aggression, physical, his ability to take on blocks and shed is among some of the best linebacker tape you'll see in the class. I think he's got a little bit of everything to his game. Really well-rounded player. I think the coverage is actually pretty good for him too.
Yeah, it's 6'3", 238. You'd be hard pressed to watch like Washington, Ohio State, Michigan, where he missed a tackle. I mean, he's one of these guys that is constantly, when he's in position, he's getting his guy to the ground. I think, to me, though, that when you watch this guy play, the thing that really is so impressive about him is how he's so efficient getting to the ball. I mean, there's not a lot of wasted movement or steps or anything with this guy. He's got really good awareness. He's got really good change of direction, and he finishes tackle. I mean, you do not see him like sitting back and waiting. Like he's
a run and go.
He goes and goes and gets the football.
Yeah, Steve.
I would be surprised, by the way. I know they were talking about it before. I think that somebody might take this guy in the 3rd.
I agree.
Yeah.
Stephen Jones last week with KNC talked about how much better of a chance a guy has of having a successful career the more years that he's been a starter. So I think that's worth having an eye on as we have this new coaching staff and we're trying to figure out exactly what they're looking for. But once you get to the end of day 2 or into day 3, I think projecting traits probably, but obviously in the first round, if you have a guy who stepped onto campus and immediately became a starter and never came off the field for 3 or 4 years, that's one that the Cowboys are going to bonus in their evals. We got Krusty's Corner coming up next. Brian, where are you taking it?
Yeah, there's some other things about this
thing. Yeah, where would we have placed this player historically in saying maybe we could move down a little bit? I think also the money positions in this draft, offensive tackle, wide receiver, edge rusher, there's pretty good depth. So I think a lot of these teams look at it in a mindset of, hey, we could probably move back a little bit and still get a really good player. The issue is maybe, other than Dallas, I don't know if there's a team that has a heavy incentive to move up.
So do you feel like, though, that these teams will sell their picks cheap, or are you going to have to pay premium to get there?
I don't think you have to pay premium necessarily, but here's what's interesting. No one wants to give up 2027 draft picks. And so if you're the Cowboys and you call and you're trying to move up and Cleveland says, all right, we want 12 and next year's first. Hang up. There's no way. Like, you're not trading next year's first because it's such a talent-rich draft. And I think we've even seen, some teams like the Jets try to go ahead and load up on next year's first-round picks because of how good it's supposed to be. So I don't know that you're paying premium this year. Usually you're paying premium for quarterbacks, right? That's the only reason you're expected to pay a little bit above asking price. I don't think that'll be the case this year.
Matt, as you're projecting ahead and looking at that 27 class, did the Cowboys maybe make a mistake in having the 2-1s this year versus maybe giving up this year's one to the Jets to keep both ones for next year?
Yeah, you'd like to have 2-1s next year as opposed to this year, but I think you have to put every team in a vacuum and evaluate. The Cowboys genuinely feel like they're a Super Bowl contender. They feel like they have a Super Bowl offense. And so I think you look at the logic there and saying, okay, you want to strike while the iron's hot. If we can add a couple impact defenders this year, maybe we can make that run in 26. While you still have this offense that's put together, while guys are still playing at a super high rate. You've got Cooper Beebe on a rookie deal, Tyler Booker on a rookie deal, Terrence Steele's making $1 million a year. So you've got Tyler Guyton's on a rookie deal. It's like right now that offensive line's so cheap, you're able to pay 2 receivers a ton of money, right? You're able to pay Dak a ton of money. And then I think now you're looking at it as, okay, can we get those young impact guys on defense to where we can match what our offense has, basically?
So you put out a tweet that you did a quick round 1 mock on the What You're Hearing mock. Now, you don't have to spoil it for the entirety of the 32 teams, but could you spoil it a little bit for what you did for our Cowboys?
Honestly, it was hard. So I went, and I did this with the idea that Dallas does trade up, right? So, if everyone's hearing it, let's run with it. Let's see what happens. So I mocked this out with Dallas moving up to 6 to get Sonny Styles. Interestingly enough, I think there's enough smoke there, right, to where that would be the move. But if you have to give up 12 and 20 to do it, you're probably getting back 39. I think maybe that's not even really equal for Cleveland. They'd probably want a little bit more than that. But then at 39, I think if you're Dallas, you are looking for an edge rusher. You're hoping that someone like a T.J. Parker is there, or Cassius Howell from A&M is there. As this team moves to more of a 3-4 defense, you're going to need some speed on the edge. Howell would be pretty interesting to me. Malachi Lawrence from Central Florida would be pretty interesting to me. But you're moving from 20 to 39 to try to find that edge rusher instead of sitting at 12 and 20.
It's Matt Miller here with you, ESPN Draft Guru. What are you hearing about C.J. Allen? He ran a 40 at decent time, high 4.4s, I think. Is there any concern about his knee? Is it all performance, or is there like a medical flag going into the draft on him?
I haven't heard a medical flag on him, and as you guys know, because Dallas does this better than anyone, I think, every team's going to have their own evaluation medically, right? They're going to look at things differently and say, hey, this guy's off our board. In fact, the year that Dallas took Jalen Smith, I think they're the only team in the NFL that had him on their board. So every team does things a little bit differently. I haven't heard any teams that have that medical flag on him, and I think him being able to get out and run is a pretty good sign. Times it sounds like high 4.4s, maybe some 4.50. That's a really good time for him. Hopefully it's not too late in the process for teams to, kind of evaluate that and see where it places him. But I would expect him to be a round 2 pick. That's it seems like Styles will be the only true linebacker in round 1, and then Allen and Anthony Hill, Josiah Trotter, Kyle Lewis, Jacob Rodriguez, those guys will be all round 2 players.
What are you thinking about the teams that are talking about all the positional value stuff? In this draft, you have to kind of throw that out the window when you're talking about downs and players like that when there's not the talent at the top of the board?
I think you have to throw it out a little bit. And I kind of sum it up this way. If you're going to take a non-premium position, it has to be a premium player. So if you're going to take a safety, an off-ball linebacker, a running back, you got to make sure that they have all-pro ability. And I think for the 3 guys that we're talking about this year, they are premium players. I think Jeremiah Love is one of the best running back prospects of the last 10 years. Caleb Downs is certainly one of the smartest, most instinctive, most versatile safeties in a long time. And then Sonny Styles, who has just incredible, height, weight, speed, and incredible production. This isn't like when Isaiah Simmons was coming out of Clemson and you're like, oh man, this guy's a great athlete. What are we going to do with him? Styles led the team in tackles in 2025. In 2024, he had 6 sacks while playing linebacker. So, his ability is very, very